Welcome to Lost Girl Therapy. Processing trauma is a highly individual experience and it is not one that can be rushed by what other people say. So one of the things that I did not discuss in the moving video is how highly individual processing of situations is and how nobody can tell you at what time is a good time for you to heal something, if you even want to heal it. We all have experiences that we say it is what it is, and they don't require our attention, they don't require our awareness or even our desire to heal them. And that is a highly subjective thing. You might have something where you say, it is what it is, don't need to touch it. And you might tell it to somebody else and they say, oh my gosh, you have to handle this, but it's not their call. When I talk about healing and processing and turning inwards, it's really about holding the awareness for what is going on in your life and what have you experienced that is now having perhaps a negative impact on your day-to-day experiences. What have you gone through that may be influencing how you're showing up in the current day? This does not mean that we have to confront every single thing that we've gone through. This can simply mean holding awareness for how there are connections between the experiences that we've had, the relationships that we've had, and who we are as an individual showing up today. Then there are going to be times where if we've navigated into a calmer, safer, more balanced environment, we might notice that we feel more inclined to navigate complex conversations, or we do want to address perhaps traumatic things that have occurred. We might even just want to address some fear responses from experiences that we've had that we were not ready to handle a few years ago, or even a few months ago, or even 2 days ago. One of the things that I noticed in my own core energetics experience is that I was not ready to process my experience with POTS, my experience with jugular vein compression, or even just some pretty not great experiences that I had when I was living in Boston until I had lived in a calmer environment for an extended period of time. When I was in Boston, I was taking a walk one day and some guy lunged at me on the street. Scared the bejesus out of me. And I sprinted all the way home. I basically was freaked out and I spoke about it a handful of times and I was like, hey, this thing happened. And I spoke about it in a very highly intellectualized way. I did not want to experience the fear. And I just kind of left it there. I did not pay attention to how it was changing the way that I showed up in the world. I really did not want to talk about it. I didn't want to re-experience it. When I started doing core energetics, what I began to see is how high my fear response was and how hypervigilant I was when I was walking down the street. How I never could really just be in a space of you're here and you're present. I was constantly scanning the environment for danger to an unhealthy degree. It's not to say that you shouldn't be aware of your environment. It's just to say that I was at such a heightened state that it was making me incredibly fearful and incredibly anxious all the time. So when it came to core energetics, one of the things that I had to do was talk about that experience, but feel the fear again. And it was hard. It was a hard session. It was I was shaking, I was scared, my chest was tight, I could feel the fear coursing through my body. But one of the biggest things that I noticed is, and this is, by the way, this is 3.5, almost 4 years after this thing has happened. One of the things that I noticed is, as I felt the fear, I began to have lessened responses in my day-to-day life. I began to see how drastically my hypervigilance was lowering because I had confronted the thing that I had experienced that I had not processed. Now, if you said to me, were you able to process that years ago, right after it happened? No, absolutely not. I was not ready to talk about it. I was not ready to process it. I couldn't even cry for 6 months. And that was also at a time where I was incredibly sick. I was in bed all the time. I had migraines insane. Doctors did not know what was wrong with me. And I could not cry or process my feelings or navigate anything that I was experiencing. But somehow, 3.5, nearly 4 years later, I was ready. And really the process of healing and the process of navigating trauma can be holding awareness for when you are ready to go through something in the present day in order to release yourself from its hold over you. It can also be the experience of you saying, who I am right now does not continue to carry everything that I experienced. I am choosing to approach it, discuss it, perhaps confront it, understand how it impacts me, and leave it where it is, because who I am today is completely different from the person that experienced that thing in the past.